Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello and welcome to this episode of our show. This is your host, Keith Doherty. Today our special guest is top real estate broker associate Stephanie Vitacco of Keller Realty, based out of Encino, California. Stephanie is widely considered an authority on real estate. She has achieved more than $2 billion in real estate throughout her career, which spans over 25 years. Consistently recognized by the Wall Street Journal in the top 100 agents nationwide and in the top 10 agents company-wide year in and year out. Her clients recognize her as a tireless advocate for their needs. All right, with all that said, Stephanie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Stephanie, if we could start for our listeners, what led you into real estate? Was it something that you always knew you wanted to do, or did you maybe stumble into it?
I kind of stumbled into it. I was actually very young. I think I was 19 years old, and I was working overseas in the fashion industry, and I was actually working as a model. I was a relatively cute young girl, but I was only 5'6", and although I really wanted to be 5'10" and thought I should be 5'10", I was doing okay, but I realized that I was actually getting too old. There was a girl who I was working with, and she was 24, and we all decided she was getting washed up, and she was getting out of the industry. So I figured that I wanted to do something different, because although I was doing okay, it wasn't where I wanted to be. So there was a young gentleman who I knew who was doing real estate, and at the time he was making six figures, in the low six figures, but it was an incredible amount of money at the time. This was 28 years ago. And I thought, real estate looks interesting. I think I'm going to give that a try. And that's how I fell into it. And I got my license in March of 88, and I haven't looked back since.
And can you talk a little bit about what personal attributes, traits, or qualities you think have most contributed to the success that you've had in real estate?
Probably communication skills, dedication, determination, persistence. It's not an easy business. You have to really learn to listen to people and help them with what they want and with what they're trying to accomplish.
And do you think you could give our listeners an example of when your traits have played a role in your path towards success?
Sure. I think I developed these skills over time. When I was first in the business, there was a gentleman who was a builder, and he seemed to be building all the properties in the area that I'm in, which is in northern Los Angeles, and I thought I would approach him to try to get his business. And of course, I had no experience, and he had a couple of people that he was using he was loyal to, and he basically brushed me off. But he did tell me, if you bring me anything that makes sense, I'll buy it from you. So I focused all my attention on him, and I had nothing else to focus on, and I just started bringing him deal after deal after deal. And before too long, I think he realized, okay, this girl's willing to work, and he stopped using the other two guys and just pretty much used me.
Excellent. And obviously, with all success, it's usually not a perfect path to having and achieving all your goals and the success that you have. So can you talk a little bit about some of the adversities or trials that you had to overcome in order to achieve your goals?
Absolutely. It's not an easy business. The pay structure is such that you don't get paid until you close something. So in the beginning, you have to be able to sustain yourself until you get your business going. You're competing against people who have a strong track record. You really have to learn to morph yourself to all the different personalities. Someone once said to me, there's two types of people. One that wants to know how the clock works, and the other that just wants to know what time it is. So you really have to learn to build up your listening skills so you can help them through the process as best as they want. When I was a new agent, there was a client that I met at an open house, and they were in a pretty high price bracket. So I wanted to be able to do a great job for them and help them through the process. And I was maybe all of 24. And I remember their names, their full names to this day. Every single Saturday for 10 months, they were in my car. They told me they absolutely would not buy a Mediterranean-style house, and they must have a tennis court. Those were their two criteria. And after 10 months of them being in my car every Saturday. There was finally a house that I found, and I said, listen, it doesn't have a tennis court. They said, we don't want to see it. And I said, it's Mediterranean in style. We really don't want to see it, Stephanie. And I said, just look at it. Just humor me and look at it. And they looked at it and they said, oh my gosh, this is exactly what we want. How did you know? So by listening and learning what sometimes people don't tell you with their words, but they tell you in other ways. And I had literally been with these people when, I remember there was one house that I showed them, and it was brand new construction, and the stairwell wasn't even in. And I was sick that day, but I thought, there's no getting sick in real estate. There's no time for that. So I met with them trying to conceal how sick I was. And there was one point where I could feel that I was about to pass out. So I didn't want anyone to see me faint because that would be really embarrassing. So I ran down the stairs, which was probably not the smartest thing to do because the staircase had no railing on it yet. Luckily, I did get to the bottom of the staircase. I thought I was out of sight before I actually passed out. Anyways, it was a whole big spectacle. But I didn't want to, you can't stop. You need to keep going. You need to push through it. So I thought I could hide that I was sick, but I guess I didn't do such a great job.
I think the point you made there to stress for our listeners is what you did is to be able to listen, and I think that's a great trait or attribute, even outside of real estate, to really just sit down and understand. And you only didn't listen, but you understood what they wanted, because you mentioned that you had a house and you knew it kind of fit everything they were saying they wanted, other than, like the tennis court, and it wasn't quite exactly what they said, but you just had a feeling after working with them that it's definitely what they wanted, and obviously you took them and then it worked out. So I think that's a very valuable information for everybody to really not only listen to, but to understand what somebody's truly saying about what they want.
You have to listen. You have to pay attention, and you have to morph to their personality as well.
And I guess, Stephanie, what kept you going despite these obstacles? Obviously, you got started in real estate, and you were up against these, a whole new environment. You said there wasn't a lot of training and a lot of guidance, and you tried to get what you could. Why didn't you give up? What was your driving force? I
think it's my nature. I wanted to be in a business where I had control. I knew that this business would be extremely demanding, although I don't think you really get it till you're in the thick of it as an agent yourself. My father told me at a very young age, pick one thing and do it well, and I took that to heart. I'm also really competitive, and I don't like to lose.
And I guess kind of, looking forward, what is your vision for your career and your business over the next 5 years?
Continual growth. I like the action of what I do. Continual knowledge, getting better with each year that passes. There's always so much to learn. I do take a lot of pride in bringing a high level of knowledge to the table and being good at what I do. That's very important to me.
Excellent. And I guess kind of on top of that, what do you feel is the best way that you market yourself as a real estate professional so you can have continual growth?
I think if you do a great job for your client, your own needs will follow. They'll refer you. At this point, I am fortunate that most of my business is past clients and referrals, so it's always been very important to me that my clients are happy. And I like to make it fun, too. I like to really get to know my clients and what makes them tick. Social media, of course, has changed the way we all market ourselves, but it just comes down to the basics, and it comes down to doing a good job. But as corny as it may sound, my thought process has always been just put the client's need first, and my own will follow.
And I think when it comes to agents, I kind of mentioned it earlier, the joke that you got your license and you instantly made money. But I think from a market standpoint, there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to real estate agents and the value they provide and what they really bring to the table for either a buyer or a seller. What do you think is the biggest misconception or myth people have about working with a real estate agent?
I think you hit it on the head, that it's easy money, that we make all this money and we just drive around and look at houses. There is so much to it. It's a 24-hour-7 job if you want to do well at it and if you want to be good at it for your clients. It takes tremendous skill and knowledge, and because it's not an easy business, and most agents get into it thinking, oh, I just have to sell one or two houses for $1 million or, however much, $500,000, and I'm going to make all this money. Most agents get in and get out within 3 to 5 years. And it takes years to develop a strong skill set. So you got to get past the breakwater And because most agents don't get past the breakwater, it can give the industry not such a great reputation. But I do look at each property as if it was my own or if it was my mother's. And I'll have many clients who at the end of the transaction say, wow, I had no idea how much really goes into that process, or gee, you really do know what you're doing. You really know your stuff. That's a lot of work. So I don't think a lot of people really get the pitfalls until they're in a transaction themselves, and then only then do they realize how important it is to have a strong professional in their corner.
Excellent. And let's say you get a call from a family member or a friend, and they live in another state, and they want to sell their home. And obviously, I know, given your experience and the amount of time you've had in the industry, you probably have a lot of connections, and you could, obviously with Keller Williams, you look to their network to do a referral. But from a general advice standpoint, what would you tell them to look for when selecting an agent that could best serve their needs? Kind of how you talk about serving your clients' needs. What would you tell them to look for in an agent?
Absolutely. I do have a strong network, so I would reach out to the top 2 or 3 in their area. And then I would suggest that they talk to them and really get a feel for that person's marketing, that person's skill set, their level of dedication. And also, it's important to have a personality that matches theirs. It's a very intense relationship. Although it's short, it may only be 3 to 6 months. It's an intense relationship. And I think it's important that they've got somebody who is very present, very knowledgeable, and has their best interest at heart.
Excellent. Well, Stephanie, if somebody's looking for real estate services or an agent in the Encino, northern Los Angeles area, what's the best way they can find out more information about you and how you can help them?
I do cover the entire northern Los Angeles area, also known as the San Fernando Valley. The best way to contact me is either my website, which is stephanievitacco.com, or call me or text me at 818-298-1187.
Excellent. Well, Stephanie, obviously we want to take the time to thank you for personally coming here today and sharing all of your real estate professional experience with our listeners. And if you're listening and you want to learn more about Stephanie, obviously you can visit her website at stephanievitacco.com. Also below this interview, we'll have a link to her website, her phone number, email, any other contact information we have so that you can make contact with Stephanie and see if she'd be a good fit to help you out with your real estate needs. So with that said, everybody, until our next show, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.